ذلك هدى الله يهدي به من يشاء من عباده ولو أشركوا لحبط عنهم ما كانوا يعملون.
I'm from Taiwan, and I used to study in the Department of Diplomacy, and I went to Syria in 2009 because of studying Arabic. And I meet the people, someone who introduced me some of the ayah from the Quran, scientific one, and it made me feel very interested. How can people like before 1,400 years know about these kind of stuff which is beyond their technological ability? At that time I started to feel interested.
So I grew up here in Edinburgh, in a tiny little village kind of on the outskirts of Edinburgh. Went to high school, and that's when I was introduced to Islam through a friend. And I think from that point onwards my interest just gained up until I think it was 17 when I said the Shahada. As I said, that was down to my friend in high school, and she actually wasn't Muslim to begin with. She converted when we were 15. We had been friends prior to that for a couple of years, and I had no idea she was interested in Islam. So when she told me out of the blue one day that she'd come to the mosque and she was now officially a Muslim, I was very confused, and I was actually very worried for her because it didn't seem like something any typical 15-year-old would do. So from that point onwards, I kind of started reading into Islam just to check out what she was getting herself into. I was aware of the kind of typical stereotypes of Muslims being violent people, terrorists, all these kind of things. And I was worried she was getting herself into that, and as her friend I wanted to protect her. So I was reading about Islam, and as I read, I think what I then found was vastly different to what I expected to find. And it's that way where it kind of like grabs you and you're like, oh wait, that's not what I expected to find, and you just want to keep reading more and more and
more. Because that time after I know these kind of, there's a book before 1,400 years ago can have these kind of special or more advanced knowledge than that time, the people at that time. I decided to know more, so we visited the religious scholar, and in the beginning I just challenged him whether this book is real or not, because maybe it's written 1,400 years ago, maybe you will have changed something. But from what I know and what I've heard from these scholars, they told me that no, this book have never been changed since it's have been nazal, came down. It's real, but I also want to know what about the religion is. Is it like that violent, or is it that like suppression from what we saw from the media, especially the Western media? But then, no, it's not. Like you have the salam in the religion, and you also have the ukhuwa, caring about your brothers, and also my personal experience inside of the people. So that makes me to convert it. Yes. After I converted to Islam, I would like to learn more. So like before Fajr, I would attend some kind of courses inside the mosque. So on my way to the mosque, like there's a car passed through me. He asked me, "Are you a student here?" I said, "Yes." And then he started pulling something out of his jacket. I was a bit afraid in the beginning, like the terrorist idea was going in my mind. But then he gave me like 500 lira, 500 Syrian pounds, like 2 times, without seeing this person's face. Yeah. And like other things, like after the Ramadan, when the Eid come at the market, older lady came to me, but you can tell she's not from a very like rich background. But he's also very generous. He gave me 100 Syrian pounds. It's not because of money, but I just asked her, why you want to give this to me? Because she just told me that because we are from reading the same book, we are from the same religion, we are brothers and sisters. And I find it's a very nice religion. It doesn't like from what the news have tell us. Yeah, it's totally different.
For me, prior to practicing Islam, I was in a very confused state about my life in general. And this does go prior to me even being introduced to Islam. I was a period of high school whereby they were asking us to kind of figure out our life, you know, what subjects do you want to pick in high school, what career do you want in the future. And I know for most kids, like, they probably just, you know, they have a career path set in mind and they go with it, but I started asking all these really bizarre questions where I was like, well, how am I supposed to know what I should be doing with my life? And when I didn't know, I asked the people around me, my parents, my teachers. Then I started asking, well, what gives these people the authority to tell me what I should be doing with my life? So that kind of then led back to questioning things about whether a creator exists and whether there is an ultimate purpose. And that happened before I was introduced to Islam. So when I was introduced to Islam, it kind of fell into place that when I was learning about the fact that we do have this ultimate purpose, it was like a light bulb moment. It was like that kind of idea of going from darkness into light. Like, it was suddenly like someone had put on the light. I knew what I was doing with my life all of a sudden and where I had to go. So that was definitely the biggest experience prior to Islam, and since coming into Islam, the amount of ease and peace I feel now knowing that regardless of what happens in this life, my ultimate return is back to God. It makes it so much easier to deal with anything at all. You know, any hardships that come your way, you know, at the end of the day, this isn't going to last. It's not permanent.
Like, when you go back, we know that in Taiwan, and no matter Taiwan or UK, they are both not Muslim majority countries. So like in Taiwan, the access of the halal food will be harder. Like, you go out with friends for food, you just need to pick up the seafood option or maybe the vegetarian option. I first went back to Taiwan after Syria. I think I almost ate like vegetarian for 1 year because I don't know where halal food happened.
World, and you know, the fact that I am Scottish, that I am British, it's ignored and it's washed to the side, and they just assume that I'm foreign. You know, and I've had people, you know, when I've said something to them, say, "Oh, you speak very good English," and I think, well, I should. It's my first language. You know, so there's that assumption that I am no longer from this country because of the way I dress and the way I live my life now. When I told my parents I'd been accepted for the scholarship to study Arabic, I told my mum, and her first reaction was like, right, okay. And she was silent. I could tell she was thinking. And then she asked me, she's like, so do you want to do this for yourself? Or is someone at the mosque making you do it? And I think that's her whole mentality with me being Muslim, is that somebody is making me do it, that I'm not doing it out of my own free will, and that there has to be some other involvement.
Some of the people, because they are born Muslim, and they take everything as granted, and when they meet the non-Muslim, or when they saw the new convert, they will try, like, they saw the non-Muslim, they just judge why they didn't do this, why they didn't do that. But I think sometimes you should think in their position if they grew up in this kind of background.
Guidance is something we can't control, you know, so if you have been fortunate to be raised in a Muslim family, to be, you know, in a Muslim country where practicing Islam is made easy for you, I think always be grateful for that. I remember having a conversation with one of my friends actually, and she was in a bad mood. She was having a bit of a moan, saying, oh, you know, Halima, my parents, they're always nagging me about doing this and that and this and that, and yeah, okay, I want to practice Islam, but it's annoying when they nag me. And I'm like, you know, okay, it's annoying, but be grateful, because I have family members who would rather I took off my hijab, who would rather I would stop praying. I would give anything to have my parents nagging me to go pray. You know, I'd give anything to have my parents dragging me out of my bed at Fajr time to pray Fajr. You know, so I think be grateful for what you have, and realise it is a huge blessing from Allah that He has guided us, because guidance only comes from Him.